Hi, everybody. So we're going to move on to our next body system. And the body system we're going to spend a little bit of time on today is the digestive system. And so last week and yesterday, actually, we looked at four of the other body systems, right? We ended yesterday with respiration. So now we're moving on to two other systems that are very closely linked. Like I said, we're going to do digestive today and excretory tomorrow. So the digestive system, its purpose is to get nutrition out of food, basically, right? So we eat food, but that hamburger or that salad that we eat doesn't get to our cells in that shape, right? So it has to be broken down somehow. And so I want to really quickly show you a quick GIF of how this gets through your body. So we're going to talk about the fact that the digestive system is broken down into stages, right? So you have to take the food in, it goes to your stomach, it goes into your small intestines, it goes into your large intestines, and that's the end of the digestive system. The excretory system is how do we get that stuff out of our body? Okay, and we're going to look at that tomorrow. So let's go ahead and go through these slides. So this is the cartoon, basically, right? A graphic of the digestive system. And like I just said, it breaks down food into substances so that our body can use it, right? Remember, the bottom line is we need glucose at the mitochondrion in order to get energy. Okay, so we have to break that food up somehow. And so when you eat something, depending on your system and frankly what you eat, it can take from 2 to 5 days to go all the way through your digestive system. And you're going to see why. Your small intestine is pretty darn long. So it takes a while. It takes a while to get through there. Okay. So the little fact down on the bottom is that the length of our digestive system is around 20 to 30 feet. 20 to 30 feet. That's about the height of a giraffe. If you're thinking about Forest Grove, it's the height of probably the length of one of our rooms. It's probably pretty darn close to that. So that's a pretty long path for our food to take. So the next slide is looking at stage one. Looking at stage one of the digestive system. So the first system is you got to get the food in your mouth, right? And so there's this little girl here is having some popcorn. She's being really, really silly. But the reason why I put these two silly little GIF files here is because when we talk about ingestion, it's getting the food in and chewing it. It's not about swallowing it, getting it digested. It's just ingesting, getting it into your mouth. Okay, so you eat the food, you chew it. That's called mastication. And so you chew and chew and chew into small pieces. And then your saliva starts breaking down. If you are eating something that is starchy, bread, rice, potatoes, the digestion actually starts in your mouth because your saliva has an enzyme that gets it started. So stage one is just ingestion. You got to get the food into your mouth. Okay. Stage two is swallowing. So once you get it in your mouth, now you've broken it up, you've chewed it, you've turned it into smaller parts. Goes to the back of your throat, and it goes down to where it's eventually going to get to your belly. So if you're looking here, right, so the mouth is getting chewed up here. It comes down the esophagus, right? The esophagus is the tube that's behind the trachea, right? The hard one in the front is the trachea, and that was in the respiratory system. So the food goes down the esophagus, which is a smooth muscle, by the way. And it gets into the stomach. Okay. Once it's in the stomach, then digestion continues to occur. So let's move to the next slide. So in the stomach, once it reaches your stomach, it's going to stay there for probably 4 to 5 hours. And as it's sitting there, it's getting exposed to a bunch of different things that are going to break this down. They're enzymes and acids, and they break down the food that you eat. And we're going to look on the next slide. We're going to look at a couple of those things. And so when it's in the stomach, there are other parts of the digestive system. Liver makes enzymes. Pancreas makes enzymes. What's the other one? Gallbladder makes enzymes and things to help break up your food, and those all get put into your digestive system. But there is already gastric juices in your belly, and so what happens is you've already chewed it, right? So it's in small enough pieces. It's in there for about 6 hours, and it starts getting broken down a little more. Now, the interesting thing is, a couple of things happen here. So here is just a GIF file. You know, I love me some GIF files. This is just a GIF file that shows that acids are being released and that it's helping break down food, right? So it's chopping up the food that you've already eaten. The other thing that happens when it's in your belly is that the stomach muscles, smooth muscle again. Remember, you don't have control of smooth muscle. Smooth muscle moves the food. It helps to mix the acids, but it also helps push the food to the next step. Okay? And that next step is actually occurring in the small intestine. So small intestine, first of all, is about 7 meters. So it's about 21 feet long. 21 feet long. And there's a lot of surface area. It's wrinkly, it's all folded in. It has all these nooks and crannies. And that's really important because this is where the digestion becomes really, really important, because this is where the nutrition is pulled out of the food that your body has been working on. Okay? So that broken down food and the gastric juices go into your intestines, and when the material is in your small intestine, the food gets absorbed from the intestine. So remember, this food is not like chunks of meat anymore. Okay? It's not chunks of meat. It's now in very, very small components that can go out into your blood, and then that food is delivered to your cells. So it gets chopped up in your belly as it's coming through the intestines, right? And because it's so long, that's where the food stays the longest, and that should make sense, right? But it's a really important job when it's there too. So the material gets absorbed, the nutrients get absorbed through your small intestine into your blood cells, into your blood, and then your blood carries it with the oxygen, right? Carries it to the cells, which is going to eventually get into the mitochondria. Okay, and so we have a small intestine here, and I want to just really, really quickly make sure that you understand that there's gastric juices. So all of these things have to be broken down, right? Our body can't use it in the form that it's in, so our body has to break it down. And so you have gastric juices that come from the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. Okay, you don't need to know this, but I want you to understand that there are certain gastric juices and enzymes. They might break down fat. They might break down protein from the meat that you eat. The pancreatic juices actually breaks down all three of those things. Okay, so they all work together. And you're going to learn in high school that the liver has tons and tons and tons of functions, and so it's really, really important. That's why we can't live without a liver. So then it goes on to the next step. So here, it was in the small intestine. I put a picture here. This is the large intestine. That's where we're going to go. That's where the food is going to go next. Okay. And I have a question here. It says, can you see the appendix, right? Some of us have had something called appendicitis. Okay. And so the appendix is this little thing right here at the end of the large intestine. Okay, so the food leaves this part of the small intestine, goes into the large intestine, and this guy used to be important when we ate like a lot of grains and stuff. Now it's called a vestigial organ, and it doesn't really do anything except cause us problems sometimes. So this is the small intestine. It's really, really long, and now the food is going into the large intestine. And so once we have moved out of the small intestine, right? So this is showing a particle of food that's in the small intestine, right? And then it's going to go to the large intestine. And so here's the large intestine. Remember, the small intestine is snuggled up inside there. And so now here's the appendix again. Okay, this is about Large intestine is about 3 feet long, and it's called the large intestine, not because it's longer, but because it's wider. Okay, it's a wider structure. And so the large intestine is where a lot of the water gets absorbed out of your body. I mean, out of the food that you've eaten. It makes vitamins. It produces mucus. It's where your feces poop is formed, and as it moves down, it gets ready to be expelled in the next system, right? In the excretory system. So it's moving this way. So most of the nutrients now have been taken out of it, right? And so now this is all just waste stuff. And remember, in here, tons and tons and tons of bacteria that help break this down. Okay. And so we have this food now moving through the large intestine. And I put up here that sometimes it's called the colon. And you may have know someone or have heard of the something called colon cancer. And it is cancer of the large intestine. So let's move on to the next slide. And here we have, you'll take a look. This is a little bit difficult to see, and I apologize, but I couldn't find a really good one. So notice the food is coming, the digestive food is coming out of the small intestine here. Let's wait for it to come back. Comes out of here, goes up, goes up here, comes back down, and then you'd poop it out over here. Okay, so that's where the large intestine is, otherwise known as the colon. Now, I'm going to show you this one more time. And so the food goes in. That is stage 1, right? That is ingestion. Stage 2 is swallowing, right? You got to get it down to your belly. Stomach is stage 3, where the food starts getting broken down even more. Small intestine, where right? It's very, very, very long. And this is where the food gets broken down furthest. And then you get to the large intestine, which is right here. And that's basically where the excess water is being taken out and the poop is being formed. Okay, so your body doesn't want to have stuff that it no longer needs. And so that's why we expel things. Okay, we expel excess matter that we've eaten as poo, right? And we expel excess fluids that we don't need, and lots of other garbage, by the way, in our urine. Okay, so we're going to stop here. Tomorrow, we're going to look at the excretory system, and we're going to make sure that you know that those two are very closely related. I know I've said this before, they're all really closely related, but the digestive system and the excretory system are very closely related, just like the circulatory system and respiratory system was, and the skeletal system and the muscle system. So we're getting there, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye. Thank you.